Hello again, year three. So, carrying on then our story, Howard Carter spent these 8 years digging in the Valley of the Kings in Egypt. Lord Carnarvon's got fed up. He's fed up of having to pay all this money and not find anything. And now Howard Carter thinks he's found something. So you've got to go back there. Okay, so go. Sorry, guys, I'm not a whiz at the computer, so I can't make that happen. You're just going to have to do that with your hands or go. And now you've gone back in time. Go underneath the desk for a second and pop up, and now you're back in 1922. Okay, and you've got to pretend now you're in 1922, and here we are. You've flown back in time. That's the idea of the plane, and now you're back in 1922. The planes didn't fly very far. Okay, so that's a bit of a problem for Lord Carnarvon to get out there. So it took 2 weeks to get out from Britain, and that's where Lord Carnarvon took the lift. So although Howard Carter found this, he couldn't show Lord Carnarvon straight away. So what he had to do, where he dug up the tomb of Tutankhamun, was um, he had to be careful because basically most archaeologists thought that they'd already dug everybody up. So most archaeologists didn't believe that Howard Carter could find something. Okay, and in 1922 he then did find something. And in that Valley of the Kings point, he found Tutankhamun's tomb. Okay, he'd figured out eventually over these 8 years and the years before that there might still be this tomb, and he'd found it. And he was like, I'm going to be special and famous because of this. And what he did then, were digging in November in 1922. They were digging the sand, moving the stones, okay, and they didn't really believe it, but they kept digging, and then this little boy found it. Okay. He crouched. Sorry, I'll move out of the way so you can read this. His job was to fetch water, but then he sat with a stick. Some of you might do that. I know my son does. Fiddling around with a stick in the ground. I think it's quite interesting. He wants to be an archaeologist. I think he's convinced that in our back garden there might be pharaohs' tombs as well, but I doubt it. You never know. But then he was digging with his stick, digging, and eventually he hit something hard, and he noticed, didn't he, that it might be. So he kept digging, and he goes furiously, and using that adverb, furiously digging, and then he noticed something. And he ran to Howard Carter and he said, Howard! Oh, he probably said Mr. Carter. And he told Mr. Carter what he'd found. And then they dug up that element. They found it at the top of a door made of brick and plaster. On the door was a stamp, and that stamp showed that it was intact, that it was royal, and it was intact, so it was still together. So nobody had disturbed this tomb before, so it was a very special tomb. And what they did then, they found this stamp, if you see, where it's a bit small. You can see they found this stamp, this image on the front. And that's how the tomb would have been sealed. Tutankhamun's tomb would have been sealed. So Howard Carter ordered all the workers to gradually clear away the sand. So it took a long time because there's a lot of sand. They had to be careful because it's something that's many thousands of years old. So even then, it was about 3,500 years old. They dug away and they found 12 more steps. Okay, and here he is. You can see him walking around there. And here you can see on the bottom right a telegraph, and this is how you'd send a message then. He couldn't get his phone and send a text. He couldn't phone him up, couldn't send an email. He wrote a message that somebody typed up. You phoned it through, and then the message was printed out and then taken to Lord Carnarvon. Because Lord Carnarvon's like, oh, but can he go straight away? Or how long will it take him to go there? Yeah, it's taken him 2 weeks, isn't it, Leah? So then they cover it over. They cover it over because he can't show his benefactor, the man who's given him money, straight away. Sent that message to Lord Carnarvon, who was in Scotland, so not even in London, where he could, or not able to get straight on a boat. But it took him. How long did it take him, Leah? Dominic, can you help us out? How long was it? Yeah, it's 2 weeks, isn't it? It took him 2 weeks, and he came with Lady Evelyn, who was his daughter, and they met them. Okay, and they went to have a look. Together. Okay. They asked them to break down the door. Okay, so they break down the door. They found the passage was blocked by rubble. Okay, then they cleared that away and they found another door. Okay, and when they went through the next door, what do you think they found? They broke this, they broke a hole in the corner of the door and they passed through the hole so they could check that it was a passage clear. And then they looked through again and they were using candlelight because they couldn't see. They use candlelight so they can see, but also to make sure there wasn't gas that could make it tricky for them to breathe. Okay, and they were okay to go through, so the candle showed they were okay. And they opened the hole a bit more, and Lord Carnarvon was behind Howard Carter, and Lord Carnarvon says, "Can you see anything?" "Yes," Carter replied. "Wonderful things. What do you predict was in there? What do you think was inside Tutankhamun's tomb?" We'll see them in a bit. What treasures are there? But then they went. Lord Carnarvon and Howard Carter wanted to go in, but the rules of Egypt said you couldn't just do that. You couldn't disturb it. They had to have an inspector with them when they first went in. They couldn't go into the tomb anymore because they had to preserve what was in there. It wasn't the right of Howard Carter and Lord Carnarvon just to take what they wanted. That wasn't the way it worked. They followed the rules. They closed it up. And they left somebody on guard. This is our guard. And they stayed there. And they got on their donkeys because they didn't have cars at that point in that place. And they rode back to the house where Howard Carter had been staying for many years. Okay, and they went back there. How do you think he's feeling? Job today to now, Howard Carter. I'd like you to think about, you've just returned from the tomb of Tutankhamun with your benefactor, with Lord Carnarvon. You're exhausted and frustrated. And you go to your room and you write a diary. What you've seen at the tomb and how you feel. And on your page, I've put down some potential ways of opening your sentences. So today I returned with my friend and colleague, Lord Carnarvon. We were both eager to see what we had found. We descended, which means go down to the passage, and then can you finish that sentence after writing out the whole thing? Or what are we doing? As I peered through the small hole, I felt, how did you feel? What wonders await us? I saw, what did you see? Rules dictate we must await for the inspector tomorrow before entering the tomb. Both Carnarvon and I feel, how do you feel? You might be able to populate some of this after you've watched the rest of the slides, because we're going to find out how he felt now. Do you think he followed the rules? What's your prediction? Did he wait until the inspector arrived? Let's find out. They weren't able to wait. That same night, they went back to the tomb. Carter made the hole bigger and squeezed through and dropped onto the floor. They found themselves in a small room. Nobody had been there for more than 3,000 years. He saw a fingerprint that had been there for 3,000 years on the painted surface of the oil. The perfume still smelled. They found many things that were magnificent. They found a golden throne with figures of Tutankhamun and his wife. Although he was very young, he did get married. But Carter was worried. Where was the body? If this was his tomb, where was the body? He was worried that he might have got the wrong place. And then he noticed there were two life-size statues of King Tutankhamun, and they were there. And then what he did was they were opposite each other. They were like they were on guard, and that might symbolize a sealed entrance. So what he did was he moved away that sealed entrance, and he noticed behind it that there was the body. Now, in his book, which he wrote when he returned, he said that he waited for over 2 months. Do you think he did that? No, he didn't. Howard Carter's benefactor's daughter, so Lord Carnarvon, Lady Evelyn, betrayed his secret. She gave away the game. She told everybody the truth that he did, in fact, go there straight away. And he went through. And he blocked it up again to try and cover the fact he'd broken the rules. And the next day he went back and pretended it was the first time he'd seen it when he went with the inspector. So how do you think he felt? Would he have been excited? Would he have been irritated to wait? What do you think? And here are some of the things that were found within the tomb. We can see lots of these treasures, the chairs, the other items that are spectacular. And these would have been more than 3,000 years old. They would have been restored and carefully looked after afterwards. Okay, we can see lots of different treasures. Some of these idols from the ancient gods that the Egyptians will have worshipped. Some ways that people will have moved around, including boats and carriages. Okay. Right, guys. So just to revisit, your job then is to write that diary entry pretending you're Howard Carter. I really look forward to reading those. Thanks for listening today. See you soon. Bye.